Ladies and gentlemen, Joseph Streb, 13-time member of the U.S. Veterans World Championship fencing team here in the 2019 Arnold Fencing Classic. We're about to begin the gold medal bout in the Div 1A Men's Epee event. On the right side of your screen, Daniel Cullen from Cleveland, Ohio, fencing for the Two Ravens Fencing Club. On the left side of the screen, Sean Lauron from Apple Valley, California, fencing for the Los Angeles International Fencing Club. Our fencing official is about to call the fencers on guard and begin this 15-touch gold medal bout. There will be 3 3-minute periods. In the epee weapon, there is no right-of-way rule, so fencers are free to hit one another at any time. If both fencers hit at the same time, both get a touch. The entire body is target, and the fencers generally will be careful initially, trying to set up their actions. The first touch is important in epee, so the fencers will jockey for position as they're doing now. There's a little preemptory attack by Cullen. It's short, it's parried. Looks like Cullen wants to be the more aggressive fencer at this point. Cullen with an attempted toe touch, it's short. And there's an attack by Cullen. It's really a counterattack flush. What did you think about it? I'm here with Maestro Paul Geraci from Indiana. Paul, what did you think of that?
Well, it's obvious Cullen is the larger fencer, the taller one. He wants to keep him at bay. He really induced that flesh out of Lauron. He didn't want to go.
There's an attack into preparation by Mr. Lauron, who ties it up 1-1.
Yeah, Lauron's going to have to do something to negotiate the height advantage that Cullen has.
Well, here comes Cullen coming forward. He's kind of looking for position, but he seems to be a little bit the more offensive fencer at this point. Let's see what he can do. Well, this time he gets closed out with sort of a flush closeout move, right?
Yeah, Lauron just found the line. He was able to go through the blade with opposition and score the touch and with relative safety, avoiding the blade.
Well, so far, Mr. Lauron has had some good effect with what he's doing. Look, there's a Epee Ferry actually took the blade and got a one light.
Absolutely. He made a move to get the blade presented. He took the blade and went to town.
Well, Lauron, as I was saying, he's retreating initially to try to draw his opponent in, and then he's coming forward with various types of action, sometimes trying to take the blade, sometimes not. Now he's coming forward in a more classic sense. There he goes, backing up again. Double touch. Both get a point.
Yeah, if he takes the blade on that, he'll get the single light, but Cullen, being the larger, taller fencer, can step back and counterattack and earn the double.
Cullen, sticking with what he's been doing so far, he's trying to press the attack. He's careful about it, but there it kind of worked for him. He used his reach on that one, though, more than anything. He started forward, and he kind of went to a counterattack.
Yeah, it looked like Lauron started a secondary preparation. He got caught in it.
Both fencers respecting one another. I think they've demonstrated so far they both are very competent fencers, and it's a close match. I think that they want to keep it that way if they can. Getting a little bit more footwork out of Mr. Cullen now. Look at that. There's a long disengage under the arm that lands one light for Lauron.
But he's still able to take the blade in that final moment for his own safety for a single light.
Well, that was an impressive action. Let's see if he goes back to that. It can be risky sometimes to do the same action twice. Isn't that true?
Especially this early in the bout. You don't want to go to the well for the same action when there's 2 more periods to go. And it's 15 touches.
Well, there it kind of was. I mean, that was a similar action, although he set it up differently. But it ended up a double. Mr. Lauron now using some feints. Feinting. Now he'll go off of one of these probably. He'll feint and then he'll just go. But there he tried it, but he wasn't able to control the blade on that one and counterattack. One light touch for Cullen.
Cullen really needs to control the distance in this bout. He really needs to fight on his terms. Lauron's going to be choppy with the tempo and try to get inside. Cullen's got to stay outside. Just like that.
Well, I agree. That was a good example of Mr. Cullen using his reach. He pressed in, and then we saw Mr. Lauron trying that flesh into preparation, but he couldn't get past the reach on it. 6-6. Will the fencers now become even more careful? Double touch. It looks like Mr. Cullen's figured out how to use his reach a little bit better than he did in the early part of the bout. So he's at least getting doubles now, whereas he was giving up one lights for a while. Cullen pressing and then sticking his point out, looking for that counterattack. And the first period has expired, and our fencers now will have a 1-minute break. They can receive coaching. They can drink some water, try to collect their thoughts. In a bout like this, 7-7, I think coaching is important. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. It's 7-7. It's a brand new game. We go to 15 points. We've got 2 more periods to go. Anything could happen. And we might see some changes in this next period. I don't know, but it looks like Mr. Cullen has sort of started to find his range. It's going to be interesting to see if he goes with the same game. Everything we've seen from Mr. Lauron has been kind of like a faint go with the taking of the blade. Let's see if he sticks with that.
Do you think there would be any advantage for Mr. Lauron if he would actually retreat a little bit more? When he does his retreats, he seems to go to the same place on the strip. He doesn't go any farther back. Do you think he could maybe break up the rhythm of Mr. Cullen coming forward if he retreated a little bit farther back?
It is possible. He seems to be going on a tempo game where he's making his footwork a little bit choppy, trying to make himself unpredictable. But I haven't really seen Mr. Cullen coming forth with attacks in earnest. They seem to be probing actions designed to pull Lauron forward, and I think that's Cullen's game. So we might see this be a little bit one-sided. I don't know.
All right, well, here we go with the second period. And Mr. Cullen of Cleveland is on the right. Mr. Lauron of Apple Valley, California is on the left. It's all tied up. And let's see if Mr. Cullen tries to actually come forward with a little bit more aggressive attacks, as Maestro Paul indicated he might. Well, instead, we see Mr. Lauron coming forward with that very, very fast pre-to-fair attack, and he gets a one light.
Yeah, he sets that up with a hard step and finishes up with a lunge. Scores, taking the blade in the process.
Well, he went for it again, but this time he got one-lighted on the counterattack. What happened there?
He didn't get all of the blade. He tried to take the blade, and he got a piece of it, but he didn't get all of it, and got hit in the process.
Mr. Lauron using that hard step, that faux step to set up his actions. Oh, look at that. He tried for the same action once again, same result. The reaction to it gets a one light.
Yeah, it looks like Cullen's really found the range. He realizes when to step back and stick out the arm, get out of danger, and hit with that long reach. That means Lauron's actually got to work a little bit harder than Mr. Cullen.
Well, I think Mr. Cullen now, with a one-touch lead, is in a position he hasn't been in the bout. Now he can go back there at the end of the strip and defend and look for those counters. It looks like that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to catch Mr. Lauron, but look at that. There's another one of those pre-to-fairs. This time it works. He gets the blade.
Yeah, it looked like Cullen stuck his blade out in a false attack, and not expecting it, Lauron took the blade and traveled home.
Well, Mr. Lauron is straightening his weapon at this point. There's a rule, of course, in Epee that the blade can only be bent a certain amount. I believe it's 1 centimeter in the middle. And so he fixed that. And there's a double action. Looks like Mr. Cullen hit the bell and he couldn't really finish, and then Mr. Lauron is able to get the one light. And Lauron goes back into the lead by one touch.
Yeah, he definitely had control of the action on that beat. There's that hard step trying to evoke a reaction.
Well, he tries the same action again, and this time, once again, Mr. Cullen's able to block him out and get the one light on essentially a counterattack.
Yeah, Lauron was forced to go long. He was stretched out on that one. That's Cullen's advantage. He can just step back and touch.
Well, here we are, all tied up. Second period of this 15-touch gold medal bout between Mr. Cullen on the right and Mr. Lauron on the left. It looks like the fencers have, again, become careful at 10-10. Sometimes that'll happen. The fencers don't like to give up the advantage, and right now nobody has an advantage. Attack and remise, it fails, it's parried. Mr. Cullen pressing forward a little bit more. But he still really, it looks like, wants to 10 forward and then hit with that long counterattack.
Yeah, I think he's trying to draw Lauron into a flesh so he can parry riposte or counterattack.
Lauron further back on the strip, but he gets hit.
I think that's the first attack we've seen from Cullen.
I think you're right. I think that's the first classic all-out attack we've seen. And Mr. Lauron did back up a little farther than he has been so far, and it didn't really work out for him. Mr. Lauron frustrated, checking his tip. That can be a psychological thing, can't it? Check the tip after you've been hit.
It might give you a little bit of time to collect your thoughts and get ready.
Oh, there's that long disengage underneath, and he gets the one light on it. All tied up. The fencer's still exhibiting a lot of energy here since it's all tied up. Nobody wants to give up a touch here, so there's a lot of motion. Fencer's looking to set up their action.
One of the big things by Cullen was that attack, though. Psychologically, Lauron's got to be ready for an attack or a defense. And there it is, with 1 second left on the clock. 1 second left on the clock, he takes a one-touch advantage.
Well, we just came to the end of the second period, and Mr. Cullen was able to hit a touch there with 1 second left on the clock to give himself an advantage. I would expect, don't you think, Paul, that Mr. Cullen will now go back to being defensive? He'll retreat and try to defend on his end of the strip?
I think so. That's probably what's going to happen. It was really nice that he scored that one attack, so his opponent has to be ready for it. I see Coach Guinan rubbing down a calf muscle on Sean Lauron right now. So I wonder if he's physically well.
Well, it's been a long day of fencing, and sometimes these fencers will get dehydrated toward the end of the day, and it tends to cause cramping. And this, of course, is not a good time to have a cramp.
This has been an amazing competition, not just this bout, but all day. The Div 1A men's competition has been furious. I mean, a very high-rated event with many fencers from all over the world here.
Well, here we go with the third and final period. The third and final 3-minute period. Mr. Daniel Cullen of Cleveland on the right has 12 touches. Mr. Sean Lauron of Apple Valley, California on the left has 11 touches. Cullen being a little more defensive, as we said. He comes forward, but really he wants to back up here and hit some kind of a counterattack.
Lauron has to catch him in a big step forward.
Yes, Mr. Lauron cannot afford to go down by another touch. He needs to, well, there he gets a double. So he'll take that, although that puts Mr. Cullen closer to the gold medal.
He's going to need to take the blade to get a clean one-light touch. Like that.
Look, he did it. He did it right under the arm. I thought that was going to be short. I thought he was going to be short on that, but he actually hit that, and so it's all tied up. Now the fencers will be careful again. Nobody wants to go down a touch in this situation so close to the 15-touch limit. Look at that. There's Mr. Lauron getting the one light, just what he needs. Now he's one touch away from the gold medal. What will he do? Will he come forward and try to win it on an offensive action, or will he go back? And because he knows at this point Mr. Cullen's going to have to come forward, right?
Whenever you have 14 points, you have to do your best action, the best thing you do. And Lauron's best action is his attack. So I would look for him to attack and win the gold medal right here.
Well, that's an interesting approach. Let's see if he does it.
Of course, Mr. Cullen's best move is his counterattack, so it's going to play either way.
Oh, look at that. He tried. Mr. Lauron tried his best action, but this time it looks like he hit the bell and he got one lighted. So now we're back to 14-14.
La Belle, the beautiful touch. The next point wins.
Fencers taking the opportunity to get a little break and collect their thoughts here. Mr. Lauron asking to straighten his blade again, probably just so he can clear his mind a little bit. So he's got to think about what to do at this point. I would predict they'll both be very careful again and just try to, set up the distance and get that final touch. Oh, look at that. Double touch. Mr. Lauron just goes for it.
Throwing caution to the wind on that.
Did. And the double touch at this point, just the score remains the same, and they just keep fencing. Oh, look at that. He did it. His best action, and he hits it.